In the modern One Piece world, there are as many pirates out there traversing the seas as there are grains of sand across Alabasta. So many weird and wonderful characters who each have a design that makes them completely unique and a character that more than backs that up. But even in story, there are different perspectives on the legitimacy of the Great Pirate Era. Take Shiki, who was around and challenging during the prime times of Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, Sengoku, and so on. Where in comparison the modern era just looks like little kids playing pretend, trying to emulate the greats of the past. Of course, that's not everyone, there are still the emperors and such, but for the most part that statement holds true. There will be spoilers up to chapter 1114, so now let's go back 900 years, where the quality of pirates could not ever be doubted, because there weren't any. Until one man, the first pirate. And I am obviously talking about Joyboy. First things first, before getting into the main discussion, let's clarify the latest bits of information drip fed to us in the latest chapter. Vegapunk said he'll be sticking to the facts, so I'll be doing the speculating on his behalf. One bit of information, the latest chunk of Vegapunk's message mentions that Joyboy fought with a stretchy and elastic body, just like Sun God Nika, which essentially confirms that Joyboy and Nika were two different people. It sounds like a huge revelation, which it is, but really this is something that we should have put together completely a lot sooner, which then leads into the main discussion. So as soon as we learned that the Gum Gum fruit or the mythical zone Nika fruit had not been awakened in 800 years, that is the point that confirmed Nika was a separate entity to the original Joyboy of the Void Century, because this would mean that the fruit existed all those centuries ago, and Joyboy was, without a shadow of a doubt, the one who ate it, because it wouldn't make much sense if Nika was just an alternate name for Joyboy, since Nika eating the Nika fruit doesn't really add up. Therefore, this means that Nika is an entity that even predates the Void Century. A quick refresher on the One Piece timeline shows us that we know specific events or ages up to 5,000 years ago, which is the age of was the age of the Tree of Knowledge on Ohara. Also, before continuing, I want to make it clear that my thoughts in this video contain just as much, if not more, headcanon than actual supporting evidence, so definitely take what I say with a huge grain of salt. Back to it, we are also aware of the Age of Heaven, which Robin mentioned when discussing Alabasta's history when deciphering the poneglyphs for Crocodile, although there is no way to tell if she was misinforming him or translating accurately. If it was accurate, I would hazard a guess and say that the Age of Heaven was in full swing long ago, way before 4,000 years ago, which is when the Palace of Alabasta was built. And for the purpose of this video, I will say that the Age of Heaven was a real calendar in the One Piece world. Well, not real exactly, but the fact that its legitimacy was left ambiguous works out very well for this discussion. And the current calendar that the One Piece world follows is the Age of the Sea Circle, as noted in Mont Blanc Nolan's logbook. So Heaven and the Sea Circle. You may see where I'm going with this. I am thinking that the Age of Heaven kicked off or was at its peak when the sun god Nika was around, so thousands upon thousands of years ago. I purely say this because of the name Age of Heaven, with heaven obviously synonymous with such a title, sun god. And I also speculate that the people living in the sky, on Sky Islands, or even the moon were the places to be during this age. They were the prosperous locations. Obviously, with the sky and such having their own heavenly connotations, I mean, just look at NL. And then we have the Age of the Sea Circle, and I think that the water is what gave the age its title, in a similar manner to how, even though the ice and glaciers in the real world don't really cover much of the Earth's surface, we are still technically in an ice age. So the Age of the Sea Circle got its name thanks to the small bodies of water dotted around the planet. So with that assumption that there were no great oceans but only small bits of water around 1,500 years ago when the Age of the Sea Circle began, Alabasta being around back then still kind of fits, given that it is a desert kingdom. So the Sea Circle could also just as well be what the ancient moon and sky civilizations called the One Piece world, the surface below them. And I think that's very important when discussing Joyboy. Vegapunk says that he was the first man to take to the seas, the first one to be called a pirate. This is from unofficial translations, and after having read the official, I don't know which one's more accurate, but they both imply two different things for me. I will get to the official later, and everything I've said so far is with regards to the unofficial. So continuing with that first, I am going to say that Joyboy had a very similar situation to our very own Kozuki Oden. The Void Century was obviously when the Ancient Kingdom was at its strongest, but I think it was a closed off nation just like Wano. And he, Joyboy, just like Oden, broke free from those shackles and went out into the world, therefore making him the first pirate. But that's where the similarities end, since Wano greatly suffered after Oden left, whereas I believe Joyboy helped to make the Ancient Kingdom even greater into the superpower that stood atop the world, and this is what drew the eyes of the likes of Emu and the 20 Kingdoms. So this is what led up to that great war where the Ancient Kingdom fell. So before Toki, before Lily and all of that, maybe this was when Joyboy first met Zunisha when he left the Ancient Kingdom for the first time, and maybe throw in there the little bit about the Mother Flame and its ties to the moon thanks to the mural from NL's cover story, where you can also make out the 3 ancient weapons in the very same mural, and there you have it, the lead up to the ancient war in full. Now for the official translation, where things become so incredibly simple, because the words of the unofficial imply that Joyboy was the first to set sail, and that's what made him the first pirate. But the official tells me there were already people sailing before him, but there was something different about Joyboy, which is why they called him a pirate, a character trait, a quality that distinguished him from the rest. And I think that trait is that he was free. The overarching theme of the story, I think what made Joyboy the first pirate is that in mind, body and soul, he was free, truly free. So you've got 2 explanations, the convoluted one from the unofficial and the simple one from the official. And although I still think parts of the first explanation still hold some weight, I think the official translation is the way to go, where the key to being able to truly call yourself a pirate is your freedom. But back to Nika, because all that discussion surrounding Joyboy and the Void Century doesn't include the Sun God. I said that he was around during the Age of Heaven, but also that the Age of Heaven's validity is up in the air. To get the full picture of where I am going with this, let's revisit our real world again for a second. In reality, we have the modern day, the present, right now. Then we have the past, our history, like the ancient Egyptians and ancient Romans, who were also advanced in their own way. They built things that we still to this day do not understand how they did it, and this is probably the biggest parallel. But there was a library known as the Library of Alexandria, where over 100 scholars lived full-time to research, learn, lecture, write, study documents, and which was said to be the ancient world's single greatest archive of knowledge, which was burned down along with, depending on the source, 500,000 documents or 700,000 volumina meaning more than one book, from ancient civilizations with, and I don't know how truthful this last part is, but it's still important, people claiming it set us back 1,000 years. And then after history, we have the world's mythology, like the Greek or the Egyptian pantheons, the beliefs of the ancient world lost to time. And back into the One Piece world, we have the modern day with the great pirate era set into motion by none other than Gold D. Roger himself. There's the world's ancient history, a la the Void Century and the Ancient Kingdom. We have the greatest collection of knowledge of ancient history, where scholars lived, that was burned to the ground with the Library of O'Hara. And then we have the mythology, which I say is the Age of Heaven. That is the One Piece world's equivalent to our mythology, a time of deities, and that should tell you why the ambiguous nature of that age actually works so well, because it's built on myth and legend. Therefore, this would mean that there are 2 major timelines in the One Piece world that have faded or been locked away. One mythological, one historic. But the Void Century will remain the only one that we get the full details about, because it was historic, because it actually happened. Joyboy was real, without a doubt he was real, so his story in the One Piece world was as true as the sky. But the sun god Nika's character and story was based, or has been based, purely on speculation and belief. The prisoners praying to him for salvation, the buccaneers' belief in him, and so on. And I think it will stay that way. We will not receive the full answers on the enigma known as Nika because that isn't the point of the story. Of course, I'm not saying we won't learn anything more about him, especially since during the Void Century I think we will. We definitely will, since all is guaranteed that Joyboy was the one who ate the Nika devil fruit, and we know the devil fruits are born from people's dreams and desires. So they were obviously believers in the ancient times who wished to be like him, thus giving birth to the fruit. But I think ultimately that character is going to be the huge overarching metaphor of the One Piece story, whose existence is up in the air but who represents the joy and the imagination and the freedom of the people, an amalgamation of the story's greatest themes. And his existence will remain undecided because, just like Vegapunk said, that's not what's important in this story. It does not matter if Sun God Nika was real, was around, but instead it's what that figure Sun God Nika represents. So, like I said, there's a lot more headcanon and speculation than theory crafting here, and there's an insanely big chance that whatever we learn about him on Elbaf completely destroys everything that I just put on the table here. But I guess that's the joy of it, of being a One Piece fan, racking your brain and activating every neuron to try and predict the future only to be totally wrong, which in my opinion is actually much more fulfilling than any theory or speculation actually being right. But assuming I am in any way, shape or form correct, especially the Sun God Nika mythology part, it does sound like something that would rub some fans the wrong way. Only getting vague details about such a huge part of the story, having such vital information held from us, but I would be completely okay with it. Not because I predicted it, but because I really believe that the details aren't really what's important. In Sun God Nika's case, that is, the Void Century is very different. Just like Luffy, who falls asleep when being told characters' backstories, it's not the actual details but what they represent.